on up to yonder, beyond the lights neon. Fluorescent, my essence is something to ponder. Your talent ain't something to squander. Blessed and favored so highly, anointed, appointed I might be. This is that, all that podcast featuring Kyrie.
Welcome back to another episode of the All That Podcast. This is your boy Kyrie. I am here once again with my friend Jonathan, and the reason I say again is because we actually recorded this episode Monday. Today is Wednesday. We had a little guest with us, his son, and the son wanted to make, an appearance on the show. So
his presence felt.
Yeah, you want to make his presence felt. So,
want to be like me so bad.
Right. So we're just going to save his appearance for a little later date, right? When he can actually formulate words.
Yeah, hopefully, man. But yeah, that was an experience.
Yeah.
And
to
speaking
say
of that experience. Speaking of that experience.
Uh-huh.
Goodness gracious. Every day.
Yeah, every day.
Nothing's different today.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same
I mean,
thing.
you're getting a little break right now, I guess.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Thank God for family.
Thank God for family. Yeah. So I wanted to have my guy on today, and I guess the title of this episode would be From Losing a Father to Becoming One. So my friend, dealt with the loss of his father how many years ago?
Man, it's 5 years.
5 years?
5 years now.
5 years ago, and today, December, he became a father himself. So I thought that was an interesting case or not case. Yeah, case. I think it's an interesting situation to lose your father than to have to become one yourself. So let me just start off with how is fatherhood treating you thus far?
Well, before we get into it, man, thanks for having me.
Of course.
For sure.
Again.
Man. Exactly. We go way back.
Yeah.
We've known each other for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been like 10 plus years, so this is great, man.
Right.
But speaking of, my family, you know how close we are and how close we've always been. You can probably relate, I'm sure. Your dad was your first coach. Mm-hmm. Your dad is like, still probably talks to you the same way. And when you have a dad like that, it's kind of interesting because it kind of shapes your your inner voice, if you will. Mm-hmm. But to make things even more interesting and more unique, my pops is from Boston. So we have
Show him your shirt.
Yeah, you can see the shirt. Right? So we have this East Coast accent talking to us all the time. Like, if he's not there, it's still this East Coast accent talking to us.
Yeah.
So, I was raised in a family where, I have two brothers. I have a sister that, raised a different household, but we were raised super close. And again, my pop's coaching us the whole time, and, he's like this mentor, this father figure to a lot of friends of mine. But him being that throughout our whole life kind of just made us, it makes us who we are today. Mm-hmm. And sports being like a very intricate part of my family. It's something that kind of carried over like throughout, college and after. My younger brother being, he's a basketball player, and he was, very good at a young age. And I made the commitment to leave where I was in college. I was out of state. Like, man, I'm gonna come back, be around my family. My pops had this, he had a heart condition, and he had been dealing with that for a minute. So deciding, hey, man, I'm gonna make this sacrifice, be with my family. I'm 19 when I decide that. But even before then, I've been always thinking about, like, man, my dad's sick. Just kind of been looming. And then 5 years ago, I'm 23, it starts to, escalate. And, yeah, man, I lost him. He went on to be with God. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, it was very hard. It's very hard.
So when you get the news that you are having, well, I would say expecting period, but I just feel like it's an extra layer knowing that you're having a son, right? And y'all have this name thing in y'all family where you're not exactly named after your dad.
Right.
Your dad's name is John,
Right.
and your name is Jonathan, and your brother's name is John. So your brother is named after your dad.
Exactly.
But it's all in the same realm. So right, so you have this lineage thing going on, right?
For sure.
And so you get the news that you're having a son. Can you take me to the place that you were in when you found that out, and did you have any thoughts that were connected to your dad?
Absolutely. I mean, immediately I'm like, well, when he's born, like I knew something told me, it would be a boy. So whenever we found out that he would be a boy, my wife and I, we'd already discussed it. Some couples, they start talking about marriage and kids, first date, but no, we had already discussed it. So I knew, I wanted my first to be named after me, because I felt like my pops eventually, I'm gonna want to name my son after me.
Right.
So it was, I definitely felt like, I had to keep kind of that going. It's just something that, I don't know. I feel like that's kind of in you. I feel like most men would. I feel like it's kind of in our culture to pass your name down. I know some cultures pass it down by putting it in the middle name. Again, not necessarily what we wanted to do, but yeah, that was something that that's probably the first thing. But yeah, it kind of just goes back to even when my pops was here. We were talking about, family and just him being around whenever he had grandkids. And, that was super hard to hear. Like, that is something that even at the time.
So he had this conversation with you and your siblings about having grandchildren.
Yeah, it's really
wow.
hard. It's really hard to talk about. Like, he just knew. Like, he was a man of, like, strong faith. Like, he would have a lot of phrases and sayings, but he was just a man of like, he believed in himself. He would say cocky. He was confident. He was a confident individual. And even down to, all the way down to his last day, I remember him saying, he's like, I know I'm going to be here when my grandkids are here. And I'm like, well, shit, that has to do with me. So
yeah,
tell him what to do. No.
Yeah.
But it was hard to hear that because, I mean, he was sick and we didn't know how much longer, he would be here. But I remember him telling me, like, nah, Bug, you're good. Like, you don't got to worry about it. He's like, I'll be here. He's like, you probably won't have your first kids till you're like 28.
And that's when you pretty much had it, right?
Pretty much had it. It was a couple weeks later, but I was 29. So, yeah, I definitely been thinking about it since. And, again, my wife and I, we planned and talked about it. So, yeah, it's definitely good to keep the family line going and, yeah, just grow the family. Like, we have a new member of the family. Every time I look at him, it's just weird, man.
Right.
It's crazy.
It's a human being.
Real boy.
So I want you to talk about this because a lot of times in American culture, period, at 18, it's kind of like, even though we all know that you will never stop being parented, I think in the psyche, it's kind of like, oh, I'm grown now, or our parents even might have that mindset sometimes, right? So, and then you look at you, right? So you're a dad.
Right.
And people don't really look at a dad needing a dad. So now that you're a dad, can you tell me some of those things that you wish, you do have a stepfather who is a good, great man. He kind of, right.
Sure. Yeah.
But have you had any moments to where you're like, damn, like I need, or I wish I had my dad here, to tell me X, Y, Z?
Hell yeah, man. Like, my dad and I, we just had such a close relationship.
Yeah.
Like, again, him being our coach, he would be yelling at us and getting on us and, discipline us about everything. But it got to the point where we could talk about everything. And it kind of just makes you wonder, like, what type of conversations we would be having right now. But, God's grace, I have other men around who, I look up to and who, have been mentors to me that I can ask questions because I'm the type of person, I'm not, I don't have a big ego.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have, kind of a big ego, but I like Kanye said, no. But look, seriously, I want to learn. I don't think I know everything, so I always start there. Like, I don't know everything, so let's see, what can I learn? So, yeah, I definitely think about that a lot. But like you mentioned, my stepdad, he's been a great support.
Mm-hmm.
My wife's father, he's been a great support. My father-in-law, I'm still trying to figure all these words right. My mentor, Anthony, he had kids, and we got to watch him be a father, and he would teach us about these things before they were even relevant.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, just from friends who I have a couple friends who are fathers, great fathers, and proud of them, for being the father that they are, setting an example of how to be a young father.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, I ask questions all the time because when you want to be something, I mean, there's only one way to really find out, which is through experience, but you can also prepare from asking questions and doing research and stuff like that, which, that's kind of another topic. But, yeah, man, definitely think about those conversations that we would be having and those questions, yeah.
Right. So tell me, as a first-time parent, how are you different? What has changed about JC? What has changed about JC that wasn't, present pre-baby?
I don't know. I definitely have an answer, but I kind of feel like asking you. Do you feel anything different? Like, have you noticed anything?
Yeah, I feel like you have stepped into your role as a protector.
Yeah.
I feel like you fully, because you've always been, for the most part, responsible. You've always, for the most part, yeah. Always been responsible for the most part. And
Hey.
yeah, no. Nah, and you very, you have great qualities about yourself from the jump, but I just feel like that protective mode, like conversations we've had, even with your mom, not that you don't, accept and appreciate her help or your wife's parents' help, but you still have that, like, this is my son, like, I need, not an ego thing necessarily, but it's that dad thing, right? That parent thing.
It's odd because, like I said, you want to learn. Like, I want to yield to their expertise. They
Right.
have been, they're more experienced. They've been parents for decades, right?
Right.
But sometimes it's like, man, like, let me do this. Let me lead. Because like you said, definitely have a protective nature about myself. And I feel like that's kind of scientific. Like, we, as men, we're the ones that go out. We're the ones that provide. So, yeah, like, there was this switch, and the switch happened, like, pretty much when I was about to turn 28, because I'm like, oh, shit, it's about to be, like, time. Because, again, me and my wife, we kind of talked about it, kind of worked out, and that's kind of a God thing, too, where I'm just like, whoa, this might make sense. This might happen when my pops called it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I kind of got in this mode, like, it's time to get right. Like, it's time to get in that mode. I remember telling my friends, like, it's that season. It's time. Like, we about to get it. And, they remind me of when that happened. It was actually, like, right before COVID happened, right? And then, the world shuts down, and you're like, all right, I'm going to go chill. Nah, but
Yeah.
still, man, just from a financial aspect, I was like, man, that's something I'm concerned about. I want to make sure that, I can take care of a child, because in reality, as much as you say that, you don't know what it all takes to take care of a baby,
Right.
like a newborn baby. It's way different from taking care of a child. And even research, and what all the stats say, like, nothing's the same. Every case is different. But there's that. But yeah, man, I have like this mentality about me, like I'm a warrior. Like I'm gonna make it happen regardless. Like I'm gonna go do what I gotta do. You know, I'm gonna work. You know, overtime, and you know that's kind of the mentality that I got in, for sure.
Right. So, speaking about like the God thing, you said it was a God thing, right? You mentioned that just now. So, funny enough, you found out that you were going to be a father in April, correct?
Facts.
And also, the reason why I say it's a God thing is that we were doing accountability April.
Yeah, man.
So it was like you were unknowingly
Right.
getting yourself prepared for what's to come.
The craziest thing, because everybody, you know, this is last year, 2022, and everyone, you know, generally wants to take care of themselves. They want, when the year starts, you know, New Year's resolutions, but I never really look at it like that. But at the same time, when you're preparing for something like I was, you know, preparing to start a family,
Yeah.
I was like, all right, I got to get right physically. I got to get right mentally, all that. Like, I have to make sure that I'm in the right state of mind. Well, I have this belief, you know, pretty much your mental health is connected to your physical health. So, again, everyone wants to work out for spring, get their spring break body, right? But no, it didn't have much to do with that. It had more to do with, you know, your mind state, you know, your mentality, you know, Mamba mentality. Like, are you doing what you need to do to be successful? So, April came by. I feel like I'm missing something else, but April came by, and yourself, there's a couple other friends joined along with me, and we started on the first day of April. Every day we said we're going to work out, we're going to post it, and we're going to hold each other accountable, and we're going to call it Accountability April.
Right.
And, you know, we'll probably do it again. No, we'll definitely do it again this year.
Yeah.
Because that was something that I did instinctively. I just wanted to do it because it's like it's time. Like, it's time to lock in. As a matter of fact, my brother too, like, he was going through a transition where, you know, he was finishing up college, and hey, for him, you know, off season, like, it's time for you to lock in too. So just for a lot of us, it's like transitional period, and we want to reach this goal, so we have to lock in and do, just handle our responsibilities. And yeah, the best way to do that is if you have a team, if you have a unit that is doing that with you. So, man, it's crazy because that's the month that I found out that we were expecting.
Right.
And then when I look back, I'm like, dang, I just thought about it. I'm like, dang, that is crazy how we were already locking in and about to do that anyway.
Nuts.
And then I find out that, you know, we're having our boy.
Crazy.
So that was crazy. That was definitely crazy. And again, we'll definitely do that again this year because whenever he...
Are you expecting another one? That's what you're trying to... Are you trying to break the news here on All That Podcast, people?
Trying to break a record every year.
Every April.
That is not me breaking no news. No. Nah, but I will let you know. That's funny. Oh, my God.
Oh, man. So this is a very deep question.
All right.
But I want you to speak on it and speak in depth, because your dad, you know, faced some health issues that was probably hereditary.
Yeah.
You know, and that happens a lot in our Black communities, right? And we don't pay enough attention to our family's medical history, and we end up suffering from the same thing they suffer for, and it becomes like a generational curse.
Exactly.
So have you ever had that fear? Because I feel like when something as traumatic as what happened to you happens, you have this PTSD, right? Or this paranoia. So do you worry about what happened to you happening to your son? Now, it's inevitable that it will happen. Hopefully, you'll go before him, right? But as unexpectedly as it was for you. Have you had those thoughts?
Man, all the time, man. I mean, like I said, I was 23, so for me to lose my dad at 23 is like, man, that's a young age to like not have your father with you through a lot of experiences. You know, you don't have your father to call when you know, like you said, you want me to get deep. Like you don't have you don't have your father to call when you get married. You don't have your father to call when, you know, you get your first house. When it's time to get another vehicle or another car, you know, you always call your parents for stuff, you know.
Right.
Like you said, even though we're adults, we still call our parents and we still ask them for advice. We ask them for help. So that, you know, that's already hard enough. But for my pops, he was 53. And 53, you know, I think is super young, you know. And for him to be in his 50s, I'm like, well, shoot, if I have a kid now. It actually turns out that he was around the same age when he had me.
Right.
So, you know, the age difference, I definitely think about that because his heart condition, you know, his health condition was primarily at the state that it was due to his diet. And, you know, I'm around him a lot. Like I said, I kind of left where I was to kind of be closer to family. So, you know, I'm taking care of myself and working out. And I know he's dealing with a lot of different, you know, symptoms and drawbacks from having a heart condition. He has high blood pressure. Things would affect his legs and, you know, get swollen. And it's just hard to watch. So, you know, as I'm learning more, it's like, yeah, if you are, you know, walking, if you're able to walk, I'm like, walking, like 50 years old, like we want to be able to do more than just walk at 50 years old.
Right.
But your heart's working so hard at this point because of all of the weight that it's carrying. You learn a lot from just kind of looking at it from that aspect because we have a lot of control over our health, especially our diet, you know, and whenever we're eating, you know, high sodium, we're eating a lot of red meat, eating fast food, eating, you know, just snacks at any point in time. Like it's very easy to get to that point. Like even myself, you know, actually last year in April, I actually lost like 15 pounds.
Yeah.
So like even in our 20s, like we can get to the point where we're not taking care of ourselves. And yeah, it definitely like looms over me all the time to like make sure that I don't suffer and don't, you know, for what it, you know, for lack of better words, make the same mistake. And I'm very conscious of it.
Right. How has your respect, admiration for motherhood, right? Your wife, watching your wife carry your son, watching her have to go through a C-section, literally reconstructing her body, watching her how she nurses your son and takes care of him. How has your appreciation for not only her but also for motherhood in general changed or evolved?
Like,
not that you didn't appreciate it before.
Yeah, you know, I was telling her like I can't really talk about myself becoming a father like from my own experience because I was just all concerned with her, and you know, she's carrying my son. So even during the pregnancy, you know, there were things that I was doing to make sure that she didn't have to stress, she didn't have to worry about things that, you know, that you would think about normally because stress, you know, plays a huge factor in pregnancy. Even just, you know, after whenever she was going through the delivery, man, it's weird. I like got into this protective state of mind, like you said, whenever I found out that she was going into labor and just having to drive fast, having to make sure we got all our bags packed. You know, that's one thing. You got to have like a overnight bag, you know, a hospital bag or whatever. And, yeah, like just making sure that anything that she could do or anything she needed done, that I'll take care of it. Because now that, you know, my son's here, you know, even before we left the hospital, I'm in the hospital after he's born, you know, firstly to talk on the procedure, that was so hard to watch because now you're watching your spouse, someone you love, like go through this like experience, and you're just watching, so that is, the hardest thing. And I'm just, praying through that, being there and just trying to do something.
Yeah, because you feel helpless.
What can you do? You just feel helpless. And, yeah, man, it was super hard, but, thankfully, she was okay. Boy was okay. And after, you're trying to help more in the hospital.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, dude, what can I do to help? Like, I'm kind of just on my feet all the time. Like, what can I do to help? But when the baby's nursing, like, you can't really give the baby a bottle. But, I ended up being able to bottle feed and actually help. But for the most part, the baby's sleeping or with the mom.
Right.
And then you go home, and it's even more of the same thing. Like, we all have responsibilities, but you see all the work you have to do, your job, and again, you want to help your wife. Well, she's breastfeeding. Actually, there's this crazy fact that when a woman is breastfeeding, she is using the same energy, the same metabolic energy that it takes to run 7 miles.
Dang.
Just from breastfeeding in one day.
That's crazy.
So, like, you're doing all this work, they're still working harder than you. And it's just, again, it's kind of mind-boggling how hard it is for them to, again, do your work, do all your responsibilities, but nurse the baby, take care of the baby. We're all learning at the same time.
Take care of you as a wife.
Taking care of me as a wife, which another fact about
It's not subservient. I'm not saying that she's subservient. People don't come for me. I'm just saying, like, like he said, everybody got their roles. Like, you got to take care of her too.
We are a unit. We're
Right.
a union.
Right.
And it's crazy because, studies show that welcoming a baby is one of the leading causes of divorce.
For sure.
And
Got postpartum.
It's just
a lot going on.
It's so hard because, I mean, if it's not hard enough being a young couple, being newlyweds, like, we're dealing with having to learn and transition to parenthood together. So, I think about it a lot through my lens and focusing on what I can do. But I'm also, like, it's hard not to be concerned with my wife and making sure she's good.
Right. So I feel like a lot of people, when they become parents, they feel like it should be, or not even that it should be, I just feel like they've been pushed into a total neglect of self. Because, you have work, you have relationships, you have child, you got all that going on, right? And so I'm always of the belief or the mindset that you should always put yourself first. The reason being is because, and you see this a lot with moms, right? Moms are the ones that put everybody's needs in front of their own. And then you see your mom going off for no reason, and you're like, what's wrong with you? And it's because she hasn't taken time to herself, right? But when you put yourself first and you take care of yourself, then that's better literally for everyone around you. So you're able to give off more. So as a young father, what is your self-care? What does that look like?
No, that is a great point. And it's weird because as the man, you want to be like the provider. Like, you want to be the one that takes care of everything.
Hold on, I'll stop you right quick. A real man, because the boys these days that you see on social media, they don't have that mindset.
Yeah,
they not trying to provide. They trying to be taken care of. They trying to not there's nothing wrong with splitting 50-50 bills. Nothing's wrong with that at all. Right. But these boys, they're different out here. They don't have that mindset. So when you say as a man, you say as a real man.
As a real man.
There you go.
I'm old-fashioned.
Yeah, you must continue.
I'm old-fashioned. No, seriously.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm trying to make sure that I'm doing kind of more than the standard. I'm doing more that is needed. But in order to do that, like I said, it is a lot emotionally, and kind of takes a toll on you. So I try to make sure I'm taking care of my mental health, on a daily basis. Spiritually, there's this phrase of having or of being poured into.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of the time, like if you're having this, if you have a relationship with your wife, you have friends, you are pouring out into others. But as you're doing that, you want to be poured into as well.
Right.
So kind of the same thing with your energy and with your just what you can, you know what I'm trying to say? Like what you can actually do and take on emotionally or mentally.
Right.
So yeah, I have to like make sure I'm working out. You know, I'm running. You know, I'm doing meditation, prayer. You know, making sure I have time to myself. Another thing that leads to just struggling with new parents is like just isolation, like just not being with people, because really you just go to work and then you go straight to the house and you're just with the baby and you don't see nobody.
I feel like one of my friends is like that because this dude wants to hang out all the time. I'm like, man, so he take advantage of any of his free time. Well, he ready to go, right? So I can see that.
No, seriously, it's weird because as much as you love your wife for sure, you love your baby for sure, but I mean after like all the work you got to put up with, sleep. You're not getting sleep.
Yeah.
Stress is tough, and the baby can feel the stress. So you don't want to be sitting up here yelling at a baby that's crying and yelling, and that's what they're doing. They're just yelling, like
right.
They barely have tears half the time, and it's 1 a.m. and you got to go to work, and it's a lot. It's really hard, but like that's one thing, bro. It is so hard. Like, I remember one time I was making a bottle, and there's, like, a lot of, like parent TikTok or, like, baby TikTok is just a whole rabbit hole. It's got a lot of funny stuff.
Hold on.
Instagram, too.
Let me make this point right quick, because I used to always preach this to him, which is my baby brother that's off camera. Y'all can't see him.
Yeah.
But I used to, like, send him, like, people's check stub. I sent him one time, like, a check stub, like, after child support was taken out. Yeah. And I always preach to him about, doing things not as a quote, and obviously God doesn't make a mistake, but you get what I mean. And you did a good job with this, as far as having a plan, like preparing, like, just because this is, I hope with young men in particular are getting out of this. One of the things they're getting out of this is that this is a full-time job, being a father. So you just don't want to be, laying your seed everywhere, and then when it happens, and then, and for like a young person his age, right? He's about to be 18, 13 days. So it's like you're 29. Yeah. And it's hard for you. You're 29, you're married, you got, you know what I mean? So imagine how that would be for a teenage or a teenage boy,
Let's say I tried to make it happen when I was 23 when my pops was still here.
Yeah.
Man, I've grown so much since then, like 5 years.
Right.
Even now, like since my child's been born, I've aged in 3 months, 5 years, Like,
boy, looking like Obama was in office.
Like that meme where you see like before World War II.
Right. Yeah.
That's me right now.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, you grow so much, and I mean, definitely planning and being on the same page in agreement with your significant other, with your spouse, is one of the leading causes, or is one of the things that can actually like save your marriage. Because again, in general, all marriages show less satisfaction. Like the rate goes up. It goes up from 40 to like 90%.
Right.
Like just from having a baby. But you're more likely to stay together and work through it if you planned, if you have faith, if you believe, if this is what you really want to do. And you just got to remind yourself that, and like you said, not think it's, a part-time thing.
Right.
You can't half-ass it. Like, you got to be full-time, locked in, even when you tired, like sleep. Like,
yeah.
It's crazy because
it will also put your life on hold.
make you. I mean, you got to make sacrifices, and that's, that you mentioned that's one of the biggest things that I want to make sure I remember is sacrificial love. Like sacrificial love is, the example we have, and it's really the best way to look at love, because you can't really love if you're not losing a little bit of yourself. Even being bold. Sometimes we don't want to be bold. Sometimes we want to be, passive, or sometimes we just want to worry about ourselves. Like, you really just, if you think about it, you really just have to put others first. I mean, that baby comes first. No matter what time it is.
You got to get up.
No matter what's in that diaper.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
No matter what's in that diaper.
I have to get some gloves and a face mask, but the work has to be done. I haven't done the face mask, no.
Yeah.
No, but
yeah.
I definitely have to put gloves on. Bro, it's 6 a.m. It's 6 a.m. once, and
boy,
I'm thinking it's all good.
Putting the gloves on like he going in for surgery.
Bro, facts. First of all, and I mean, I had them for like other stuff, but once I seen what was in that diaper, I had to pull out the heavy duty.
So serious, huh?
Protection. Man, but baby boys will pee on you.
Yeah.
Like a sprinkler system. You probably know this. Facts.
That guy.
They do that.
Yeah.
Now, this is what I did not know. They will shit on you too.
Nah, he didn't do that.
That happened. And then I had to Google how to get shit off wall. Bro, that's no like
off
that's
the damn wall.
I was
No Michael Jackson. This is crazy.
no, seriously, that's probably one of the craziest things that has happened. But
sheesh.
Facts.
So this is a two-part question. So one, when you're conversing with your son, which is really he converses with you too, but just in a different way, right? So do you hear your dad's voice speaking through you? Like, I hear myself say certain things, and I hear my parents on certain things that I say. So do you hear the things do you find yourself saying to little Johnny what your dad used to say to you, what you remember your dad saying to you? And also, the second part is, what are some of the main lessons that your father taught you that you want to pass on to your son?
Okay. Yeah, that is like a two-part question.
Yeah.
So, what are the things I want to pass on? And do I hear his voice? Man, I think as we get older, even if you don't have kids, you're like slowly
you become them, huh?
your parents, right? It's like there's a comedian that talks about that. It's like you just got this East Coast accent all of a sudden, and it's like, yo, where's the meatballs? Like, where's the Parmesan? Like, just always talking like them. Always saying things I used to say.
Yeah.
I mean, but I have a baby, and again, a lot of times I'm just laughing. I'm just looking at him, saying his
baby
name,
talking,
freestyling.
Yeah.
You know? So a lot of times when I'm talking to him, I'm really just, trying to. You got to talk to him. Like, I'm just talking to him about what I'm doing and what we're doing. The more words they hear, the better. It's good for their brain development. So I'm just, again, at this point, I'm just narrating our life and trying to make it fun.
Right.
But the second part of the question is,
what are the main lessons that your father taught you that you want to pass on to little Johnny? Yeah,
I mean, kind of the main thing that I said earlier is how confident my pops was. That's something that, like, man, even for yourself, I'm sure you can probably say, like, when you were younger, man, you would do some things, and our parents, our family would speak confidence into us that if we did not have that, we would not be who we are. You know, so, like, just to believe in yourself, like, even if it's something that is small, it's like you want to, like, for example, I'll be 30 this year, right? Well, when Johnny's 4 or 5, I don't want him to look at me like, man, what you telling me to do this? You can't do this. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
this year, like, I have goals, you know, that I set as, you know, they come to my heart as God puts it on my mind.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided, shoot, this year I'm gonna run my first marathon. You know,
Don't ask me to join.
look, all right, you can meet me for
I hand you one. Good job, man. You doing a good job, man.
All right,
Yeah.
you said it.
Yeah. Yeah. Go, JC.
I'm gonna invite you too. You're gonna have to stay out there.
Nah, I'll stay out there. That ain't no problem.
The whole
Yeah.
4 hours, however long.
That
it
ain't no
takes.
problem.
But like, just to believe in yourself, man. Just to challenge yourself and don't fear failure, because a lot of times, like, we want things to go perfect. You never want to lose. You want to go to Katy High School and not lose a game, and want things to be easy, and you want life to just go your way, but it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be someone to like coddle him and spoil him. You know, I'm going to discipline him in a very similar fashion to how I was disciplined. I want him to have all the opportunities that I had. Like we were talking about football. Like, football is a violent sport. And as we learn more about it, you wonder, I don't know if that was good for me, right?
Yeah.
As much as we love the game, as much as we love that sport.
Still battle with, well, let my son play, that kind of conversation.
So,
Yeah.
you know, I wonder, like, will I let him? It's like, man, I'm going to let him have all the opportunities that I had. I'm
Right.
not going to let him be fearful of anything.
Have to roll the dice and they land where they may.
Exactly,
You know?
man. So that faith, that belief,
Right.
gotta believe, man. That's what my pops always used to say. So
Yeah.
I definitely, you know, will pass that phrase. No pain, no gain. You know, get serious. A lot of that, man. Just a lot of things that will give you drive, will give you passion, and things that, you know, things that we need to hear too. So it's kind of like a reminder to myself to be able to say that to him.
Right. So obviously, little Johnny will not get to meet his grandfather, at least on this side of things. What will be the conversation when little Johnny asks you about your dad? How was he? You know, what was he into? You know, all these questions that a kid will have about a grandparent that they did not get to meet. What would be that conversation that you have with little Johnny, and how do you want him to not remember, because he can't remember, but how do you want him to view your dad and your dad's legacy?
Man, it's funny because I was actually talking to my father-in-law about football whenever it was football season. I'm like, man, I guess we're going to have to support these Texans, huh? And then he's like, You're not a Texans fan, though, because, you know, like I said, my pops is from Boston, so
Right, Patriots.
really, you know, I support the home team, but yeah, the Patriots. Like, that's, you know, if my pops was from Jacksonville, you know, I probably would have been a Houston fan. Nah, but he's from Boston, so we got the championship city.
Right.
So, like,
just so happened to fall, you know, on
honestly,
6 rings.
I'm thankful for that.
Yeah.
For real.
It was a good time.
Man, won a lot of championships in my lifetime.
Right.
Sure. So, like, even if they go on, like, this slump
Right.
and they don't, you know, I'm going to pass that along. I'm going to let him know, like, hey, we still have family there. Like, this is where our family's from. This is, you know, this is a part of our culture. Again, it may come out sometimes where people are like, where are you guys from? Like, I don't know if anyone else, like, I've gotten asked before, but, like, yeah, if anyone else asks you, like, if you have, like, an accent or, like, if you're from here, because you're from Houston, but you're not from Houston. Does anyone ever ask you, like,
No.
where's your accent from?
Not really.
You got an accent.
No, they don't already ask me.
They don't? So, like, just like, to know that about him is unique, you know, and to have pride, you know, to be proud of who you are. That's one thing. Also, just stories about him, just letting them know, like, how just wild things were when we were all playing, you know, AAU, you know, with the Hops, and what that looked like. Man, I have a lot of friends that, again, who he coached, who he was like a father figure to. So I'll probably always reference when I'm coaching him, because that's also, something I've always known since my pops coached me. Like, he would be coaching us, and I'd be like, man, I should be coaching. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I used to get scolded the most, even though, it's interesting being, like, the coach's son.
Yeah.
But, like, he's the hardest on you. So, like, I'll always reference that and, tell him some of the things that I had to go through when my pops was coaching me.
All right.
But, yeah, just kind of keep his spirit, keep his style alive in a sense, even though he's gone, and he's with the Lord. The things that he taught us and the things he passed on to us, I mean, they'll always be a part of us. So, I know in a way, he'll know who his granddad was. But, there's a big but to that, because you said he wouldn't have a grandfather, but, God's grace, my mother has an amazing husband, and, he does have an amazing grandfather and my wife's father.
Right.
And, like, that's just beautiful, because it's tough. I know it's tough to not have, a father, or it's tough to not have, your parents, not have a mother. And that's not the circumstance that I had growing up. I was blessed to have, both of my parents around. So, God's grace, he'll have more grandparents around, and that'll just be, that'll make up for, losing my pops. And he'll have, he'll be spoiled by them. So,
right. Lastly,
all right.
what advice would you give to people, to men in particularly, or males, that still have their fathers here, alive, breathing? What advice would you give them as far as their relationship with their fathers?
Yeah, man, I had a very interesting relationship with my pops, where, sometimes it wasn't great. But even all the fights we had, all the times we argued and there's bickering, I remember having this, like, change of mind, like, man, once you realize they ain't gonna hurt you, you know what I'm saying? And they yelling at you, you kind of change your mentality about it a little bit, because for kids, it's always gonna be annoying, but be respectful, right? But learn from them, because as much as they're telling us, as much as we're learning from them, eventually the tides are gonna turn, and they're gonna be able to learn from us.
Right.
So just think about it from the perspective of, hey, now in my shoes, like, do you think you would put your son down to where he won't be able to make a difference in the world? It's like, no. Like, I want to lift my son up. I want him to be able to help me, And I know that because I know I was able to help my dad. I know I was able to help him grow even, in his later years. So, yeah, I would just say have that faith that, hey, your dad loves you. You know what I'm saying? It's hard. You're getting yelled at or whatever. Y'all have a tough relationship. But have that faith, like, whatever y'all are fighting about, have that faith that y'all can talk through it, even if it's a hard conversation. I'm someone that I believe, I'm kind of emotional. We're kind of both like that. And, like, no matter what it is, like, no matter the cost, like, it's worth it to kind of go to those stakes, to take it, like, to those stakes to, to make sure that, your love is felt. Like, do it from a place of love. But, like, you got to get through all the hard things, Yeah, that's kind of the number one thing, because I know a lot of people deal with that. But also, man, just put God first, Like, keep God in your life, for real, because if you don't have that faith, if you don't have that relationship with God, I mean, it really does play a big toll, especially in our culture, in our society. There's a lot of risk out there, and God's will isn't going to lead us away from life. It's going to be life-bringing. It's going to be bringing us up. So that's something that, I would also start there too. I mean, how's your heart? Like, how's your relationship with God? And I feel like that will do that would just do, numbers. That would do miracles in your life. And get a mentor, man. like even if you have a pops, get a mentor, things like that for sure.
Yeah. So thank you, man, for coming on. I always want to thank people for, being vulnerable, because it's a lot to come on here and do what I ask y'all to come on here and do. Literally, basically being naked in front of the world, figuratively speaking. See what I'm talking about? See what I mean? Even being a dad don't grow people up sometimes. You know what I mean?
Pause.
He just said all this great, mature shit the whole podcast, and we get to the end, he like, But nah. So I want to thank you for that, man, because it's gonna help somebody in real talk. So I appreciate that. Hey, I hope all the new dads, got something out of this podcast that will help you, and to future dads also. I know, I'm not a dad yet, even though I feel like I am because with my siblings, but I'm not a dad to my own.
You look like one. You're built for it.
Right. You saw me with little Johnny, right?
Facts,
you know what I mean? I'm a natural, huh?
He was teaching me stuff.
Yeah, I do what I can. I got 4 I raised.
Real.
But yeah, so man, just thank you for coming on, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, man. So hey,
Appreciate it.
you got any last words before we get out of here?
Nah, man. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
It was a pleasure, and yeah, man. I'll see you. I'll be back or whatever.
Yes, sir. Oh, don't tell them too much. Just yeah, you just say that. Say I'll be back. That's all you need to say to end it. Period.
Period.
All right.
I did not say period.
Jesus Christ.
What's going on?
And on that note, we are out. Thank you, guys. We will see you next
This is
week.
that All That podcast featuring Kyrie.